Hello, my name is John. Welcome to another tutorial on Archimatix. Today we're going to explore the node editor and see how you can create a platform with a railing as well as a room that has doors and windows. Let's hop on into Unity. I have an empty scene open with Archimatix already imported. You can see there is an Archimatix folder in my project window. I have the node editor or graph editor open in the right side of the screen and my scene view in the left. On the bottom next to my console window, I've docked the Archimatix library. If you don't know how to open the graph editor or the library, click on Window, go to Archimatix, and you will find them there. I prefer to have mine docked so they don't overlap any other windows in my scene. Let's start by creating the platform shape that the robot will stand on. When I click a rectangle, the rectangle as well as Kyle the robot will appear. If you don't want to see Kyle, you can unclick the checkbox in the bottom of your scene view. Or you can select him from your hierarchy and hit delete. I want to keep him for a sense of scale. The rectangle comes with handles, so you can manipulate the size, and I will increase the size a little bit to about the size that I want for the platform. I want to create a complex shape, so firstly let's extrude the rectangle shape and then combine it with other shapes so you can get the shape of the room that you want. Click the output shape from the rectangle and mouse over the right column and find the extrude plan node. When you click on that, it will create the extrusion, but I want to see inside. So expand the controls of the extrude node and click on back faces, and that will let you see inside. Right now the room looks too tall. I just want to be tall enough for Kyle to have a railing around him, so I will make it about this tall. If you want it precise, for example 1 meter, you can turn on the snap setting at the bottom of the scene view, and I will check mine to exactly to be 1, and it will snap to 1, 2, 3, 4 meters, whatever you like. I will keep mine to 1 meter. And I'm gonna move Kyle closer to the railing so that we can kind of see. Okay, that's good enough. Now let's combine this rectangle shape with another shape to make it more interesting. Let's add a circle to the mix. Or let's say I will subtract a circle from the mix. So I created a circle, it's not connected yet, and we want to shape merge it with the rectangle. Now there are a couple ways to do that. You could click the shape merger node and connect your circle to it, and then connect the shape merger node to the extrude node, but I know a shortcut. I will simply click the output shape of the circle and then double right click on the input of the plan of the extrude, and that will automatically insert a shape merger node between the extrude and the two shapes that are connecting it. Now this is fine, but I want to move my circle more to the corner, so it's going to be sort of like a quarter circle. And you can see my snapping is still on, it's jumping around. If I unclick my snapping, then I can move it more fluidly. So perhaps somewhere here, I'm going to increase the radius. I'm also going to increase the number of segments to maybe like 36. Now it's pretty smooth and looks nice. The next thing I want to do is to create a doorway for Kyle to be able to get out. So how do we do that? We can reuse the shape that we used for the floor plan and then use something called difference rail to cut pieces out of it. So let's create another shape merger node. I'll click the shape merger node on the right side, and since I already had the previous shape merger node selected, it got connected automatically. Now I'm going to give it another input. A doorway will be cut using another rectangle. So I'll create another rectangle. Oh, I had the previous shape still selected. So I will delete the connection between this new rectangle and the shape merger by selecting the connection and just hitting delete. And now I want to move this shape to somewhere where the door will be, so perhaps over here, and I will make it more narrow. And I want to connect it to the new shape merger. So my output will come into the input. Now you can see the shape it created is not exactly what I want. I want the difference rail. The difference rail will cut holes in it. So now my shape for the new shape merger node looks more like the walls would look if there was a hole left for the doorway. So what I will do is delete the connection between the first shape merger and the extrude and make that connection out of the difference rail into the extrude plan node. So now what we created are sort of like the walls with the doorway cut out of it. But now we are missing the floor. Well, we cannot make the floor out of the new shape merger node because it has the hole for the doorway. We have to make it out of the original shape merger node, which is a closed shape. So firstly, let's rename the node so that we don't get confused by too many shape merger nodes. This one I will call floor. And the new one I will call walls with door. Okay. Out of the floor, we can output to another extrude node and create a platform for our floor. So I can drag out of the difference another line out into the extrude node, and now we have two extrude nodes. However, our floor is way too thick, way too high, way too big, so I'm gonna drag it but using the top handle down until it's just maybe a thin floor on the ground, maybe like this. So that will be our floor, and this next one will be our walls with doorway. Okay, so we have a good start. Now I want to create a railing. I've already created the walls with the shape that has walls with door. Now I'm gonna use the same shape to create a railing. This time we're going to use another function called plan sweep. So out of the difference rail of the second shape merger node that we called walls with door, I'm gonna click and drag over to the function node called plan sweep plan. Nothing happened yet. And that's because plan sweep plan requires two inputs. You see the two purple inputs, one is called plan, one is called section. Well, we need to give it a cross section for the cross section of the rail. Let's just make the rail a circle. So I created a new circle shape, and I'm gonna feed that output into the section. Whoa, that shape is way too large. I'm gonna scale down the radius of it, way down, and I'm gonna move it up using the snap to match exactly the height that I want. So I snapped it to exactly 1 meter. I still think it's too thick, so I'm gonna scale the radius down even further, and that should be about right. So now we have a sort of a platform for Kyle that has a compound shape for the floor plan, walls with a railing. Let's give it some materials. As you can see, there are yellow material inputs in our green nodes. For the floor plan, I will click the material, and it creates a material tool that I can assign something. So clicking the dot next to the material, I can pick something, for example, I don't know, concrete. Let's go with concrete. The extrude node, which is our walls, also has a material. Let's give it a different material. For this one, I'm gonna pick a material that has a transparency, for example, the AX railing material. All of these are in the library of Archimatix. You can create your own materials. Now you can see that material is stretched really large, and that's because my U scale and my V scale are at 5. I'm gonna bring them down to 1 to give it a more of a normal scale. And then for my railing, I will give it a material that I made, which is called simply black or blue metal. I have blue metal over here. Well, let's give it black metal, might look nicer. So that gave it sort of a shiny black metal. Okay, the line on the floor there, that's actually just a scene shadow of the railing. So if I undo my snap so I can move it freely, you can see the shadow moves as I move the railing up and down. So that's not a glitch, that's okay. Okay, so we have created sort of like a platform for Kyle. Now let's see if we can turn this into a room that has walls and a door and some windows. So for that, I'm gonna change the material for my walls. Instead of using a railing, I'll pick something more solid. How about the block wall? Okay. We don't really need our railing anymore, but I'll keep it anyway. However, I'm gonna scale the walls up to be higher. Let's say 2 meters. Do I have my snap on? There we go. Snap that up to 2 meters. Okay. So that's 2 meters high. And now I would like to close this off. The top of the door I would like to close off with a little bit more wall. The thing is, in Archimatix you can't just cut holes into an extruded side. In Archimatix, if you want to use extrusion, you have to have a base shape. We have one that has a hole cut out of it for a door, and we have one that is without a hole. So for the top part, I would like to extrude a part without a hole and add that to the top of this. We have a lot of nodes here and it's getting quite busy, so there's a way to clean up your node view. Down in the bottom left corner, you have 3 buttons: close all controls, close all tools, and show all nodes. So all of my materials, which I don't need to see anymore, are actually material tools. If I close all tools, it will close those material nodes and keep the rest of my shapes and nodes open so I can still use them. Later we will learn some other tools such as how to group nodes, but for now let's keep this open so we can see all the shapes. Alright, so I want to create another wall but with a closed shape. So I'm going to reuse the closed shape from my floor plan and make another extrusion. So out of the output, I'm going to go to extrude plan. Okay. And again, I'm going to open up my controls and turn on my back faces. This one, I want only to be half meter tall, so in my height I'll put 0.5. And I want to place it above the current walls. So I have my snap enabled, and I'll just simply drag it up and up. Okay, I don't want the bottom either. So I will unclick the caps, bottom and top cap. We don't need that. I'm not going to do ceiling, otherwise you could just keep your top cap on and you could have a ceiling in there. But, well, why not? We can see through it from the other side anyway. But the thing is, I want to keep the same material as my walls. So here are my walls. And I will expand the material. and send the output connection of that material also into my top section. So from the output of the material, I will link it to the material of the top section. And now you can see it's receiving the same material. Alright, I'm gonna hide that material tool because we don't need it anymore. It has some controls that allow you to change the scale and the shift of the texture, but the controls are quite limited in Archimatix compared to something like Maya, because you don't have control over what the UVs look like. They're applied automatically, and so you will see that the scale of the top section for the texture is not exactly the same as the scale for the wall with the doorway in it. And that's because the top section is a little bit longer. It has this extra piece to cover. And so when it stretches or tiles the texture over the entire length of it, the length is different than the section with the doors. To illustrate it better, we could choose a different material for the walls, and you will see that there is actually a discrepancy in the let's choose something that is easy to see. For example, well, the sci-fi material is a good one to use. So now you can see that there's inconsistency between where the vertical beam is running, and even if I change the U scale, I cannot get it quite to match, and that's because of that length discrepancy. The doorway section has less area to cover, and I can't quite fit it exactly. So it's good to choose a material that doesn't really show that off. That's why I chose something like the block wall, because you can't really see the difference. If you want to fix it properly, I would take this model out to Maya, where you can UV it, and then you can texture it in something like Substance Painter, where you have greater control over what the final product will look like. Okay then, so we have a room that has a doorway, but it doesn't have windows. How are we gonna put those in? We could punch more holes into the section that has the doorway, but then those holes would be more doorways, not windows. So we're gonna need another shape. Firstly, the doorway shape, I'm gonna bring it down to 1 meter, and that's where I want the windows to begin. So now I'm going to make another shape merger node. So on the right side, I will find the shape merger node, click that, and since I had the previous shape merger node selected, it connected to it automatically. If yours didn't connect, simply grab the output of the difference rail and click it into the input of the new shape merger node. And this one, for clarity, I'm gonna rename walls with door and windows. Okay, so this one needs to have some more holes punched into it. We're gonna do that the same way we punched a hole into the doorway. We're gonna create more rectangles. So I'm gonna create one. Oh, I don't want it connected, so I'll delete the connection. And another one. So these are gonna be a couple holes for the window. Now, mind you, these checkboxes for the difference rail, intersection rail, union grouped, these are only to display the thumbnail at the bottom. It doesn't really matter which one you have selected. Like in this one, I can select a different one to view the thumbnail differently, but it's not gonna change anything about my model because my model takes the output of the difference rail. This is really powerful because for one node you can choose multiple outputs out of multiple mathematical functions to reuse that node So each node is not unique. You can use the outputs of it to provide inputs to many different places. So I will have the difference rail selected because that creates the shape that has the holes in it. And I will plug in the output of my two rectangles. So one here and one there. And now selecting one of them, I'm going to reposition to where I'm going to want that window. I'll turn my snap off. So I'll want one window over here, maybe a bit thinner. Okay, I can't see it yet because I haven't extruded it yet, but I will do that. I'll just position this roughly for now. And the other shape, I'm going to also make it thinner, but I'm going to bring it wider so it covers both sides. So if you look at the thumbnail of the resulting shape, you'll have an idea of what that looks like. Alright then, let's extrude this one out. So I'm gonna take the difference rail and extrude that. On the right side, I'm gonna look for my extrude plane, and this will be my renaming it to walls with windows and door. Okay, so just for clarity. Now I have to move it into the correct position, so I'll snap it to 1, and I will also shift this down. Okay, so now it's in the correct position. Looks like our windows came through, but I'm not seeing the back side of it, and I'm not seeing the door. So let's correct those problems. Let's first correct the back side. Let's open the controls and zoom on to the back faces. So now we can see the back faces, but we don't see the door yet. So how do we fix the door? It looks like it's not coming through into my shape, and that's because I have an open shape selected here. So let's close that shape. Or do we close it over here? Let's try that. Let's close that shape. Nope and nope. Okay, troubleshooting the problem. Okay, this rectangle should be subtracted. Yes, this rectangle should be subtracted. Why is our door shape not coming through? Where is our door shape? Let's see what happens if we re-establish this connection from this shape into the input shape. Yep, it has a door. Okay, I guess it refreshed. You can also try clicking the rebuild button at the top. But it looks like now we have a door and windows. So you can see we had to build the walls from 3 parts. The bottom, which doesn't have any holes in it. The middle part, well, the bottom has a hole for the door. The middle part, which has the hole for the door and the windows. And the top part, which doesn't have any holes. So to fix up the middle part, let's link up the same material to it as from the wall. So we can take that output and send it into the material input of the middle part. Okay, now I'm gonna hide my tools so we don't need to see the material anymore. And if you don't want the railing, we can delete the railing. So where is our railing? This is it. So I'm just gonna delete it. I don't need the shape for it anymore, the cross-section shape. And we basically have a room with doors and windows. So in this tutorial, you learned how to create a platform with a railing, as well as a room that has doors and windows connected to it. I hope this gives you a better understanding of how to use the node editor in Archimatix and how to create more complex shapes. Next time we're gonna visit something called repeaters, which will really give you more power and show you what Archimatix is capable of. Hope to see you in the next video. Take care.